Recipe management. First of all, let us understand the definition of recipe in terms of Petpooja software. As this is a software and the recipe is used for calculation of different things, we have only considered two things under recipe. The first one being quantity of the raw material and the second one being the name of the raw material. All the other things such as procedures, steps, preparation time, portion size, etc. are not considered as a recipe inside the system. Now let us understand the types of recipes. You'll see a list on my screen which will display all the types of recipe nested under main recipe. Now I'll explain you the meaning of these recipes. So the first recipe is main recipe, which essentially contains all the different recipes for a particular item. Moving on to the next recipe, which is the base recipe. Base recipe is essentially the first block of building any recipe, where you have to mention the raw material and its respected quantity for preparing one portion of the dish. Now we'll move on to area recipe. There is a possibility that one dish sold in one area will have different quantity of raw materials used than the same dish being sold in another area. For an example, if I am selling a pasta in dine-in area, then the pasta recipe won't contain a takeaway box. But if we are delivering the pasta, then the pasta recipe will contain a takeaway box. Moving on to the next type of recipe, which is add-on recipe. In certain items, we do provide add-ons. For example, sprinkles in ice cream, cheese in main course items or pizzas, and so on. Now, all these add-ons will also have a recipe associated with them. For an example, if I am providing an add-on of chocolate sauce in one scoop of ice cream, then I will have to give the system a recipe for the chocolate sauce, which will essentially be the raw material of chocolate sauce and 10 or 20 grams of chocolate sauce per scoop. This will be considered as an add-on recipe. Moving on to the next type of recipe, which is the variation recipe. Now, add-ons are essentially toppings or top-ups to your particular item, and variations are the sizes or the different varieties of a particular item. It could be confusing at times, but here we'll be taking an example of pizza sizes, where pizza will have three variations. The first being of large size, medium size, and a small size. Pizza can also have add-ons. The add-ons are four in this particular case: olives, onions, capsicum, and cheese. Now, all of these add-ons can also be attached to variation or can also be attached to the main dish. It is as per your choice. In this case, we'll be attaching 4 add-ons to each 3 variations, and this example will be followed out through the entire process of recipe creation, so you understand how does a recipe forms. Let us see how can we process these recipes in Petpooja inventory. So the first type of recipe, now to start you'll have to go to your inventory section on your owner's dashboard, and then under the section we'll be going to item recipes. To add multiple recipes via CSV, you can generate a CSV file by clicking on download. The CSV file will look like this. Once you input the necessary details of the items mentioned here, you can go back and upload the recipe here. So bulk posting of the recipes will be already done. The second method is of adding via the grid. Now to add via grid, we'll have to click on add new recipe and select an item. One thing that we'll have to make sure is that all the items should be first inputted into the system via menu management. Then only it will be visible here. So we will select our item. Here I am taking the example of a margherita pizza. As you can see, margherita pizza is my item name and large is my variation. Now here it is asking me to put in the ingredients for margherita pizza large. And these things, recipe for capsicum, onion, cheese, olives, are my add-ons on pizzas. So there has to be a recipe for them also, which is also known as add-on recipe. Then comes medium, which is again a variation, and small. So we'll be inputting recipe one by one for all of them. Pizza base, pizza sauce, pizza seasoning, basil, mozzarella cheese. Here you can mention the quantity that you're going to use, the units in which you'll be using it, and the areas. Now all of the aggregators that you serve to or the areas of your restaurant will be mentioned here. Be it dine-in, AC, indoor, outdoor, etc. You can name them. And aggregators will also be visible here. So if you keep the area column blank, then that recipe will apply to all of the areas. But if you want a particular raw material to be applied to a particular area, then you'll have to mention that area. We'll take an example of a pizza box. So as we know, pizza box will only go where it is a takeaway order. Hence, I will come here and I will write down takeaway and only select takeaway. So whenever an order comes by the medium of takeaway or delivery, then only this recipe will be used. Other than that, the common recipe containing these 5 ingredients will be used. You can input recipe as needed. And then proceed to add on the add-on recipes. The same thing can be applied here. Recipe for onion, once done, we can click on Save Changes and the recipes will be generated. As we can see here, our recipe of margherita pizza is ready and you can view it by clicking on this action button. You can edit it by clicking here and you can edit the recipe by clicking here. Now we'll see what is quick recipe. First, we'll understand quick recipe. Imagine there is one new ingredient or one new raw material that has to be served to multiple items or mapped to multiple items. Now it becomes a very tedious process to go to each item and edit its recipe. So we have given the short feature of allocating one particular raw material to multiple items. We are taking an example of a coupon. Now as we all know, sometimes we run discounts and coupons will accompany all of the orders going outside the restaurant. So I've selected the coupon on the left hand side, which is the raw material column, and now I'll allocate the coupon to multiple items on the right hand side, which are my menu items. Currently we'll be only selecting pizza and cheese pizza in particular. You can input a default value which will auto populate itself into the selected cells, or you can also change the values by coming here. Once allocated, you can go down and select create recipe. The records will be added successfully. Now we'll understand what is area recipe. If you'd like to map a raw material to a particular area, so instead of editing the base recipe, I'm adding a particular raw material to a particular area inside the recipes. First, I'll be inputting the area here and then selecting the raw material that I'd like to input. So we'll be taking an example of pizza box. Pizza box will only accompany in the takeaway areas or parcel areas. So we'll be selecting the pizza, and inside the pizza, the area recipe will only get edited, not the entire recipe. So we'll add a pizza box to the item recipe and click on area recipe, and the recipe will be created successfully. As you can see here, the parcel section got added. But this method cannot be used to reduce a raw material from the area. That has to be done manually. So we've covered quick recipe and area recipe. Now we'll be understanding copy recipe. Copy recipe essentially enables you to choose one recipe from one particular dish and then add it to another recipe to make your process smoother. We'll take the example of margherita pizza and use margherita pizza's recipe to create cheese pizza's recipe. First, we'll be selecting margherita pizza on the left hand side. Once that is selected, we'll go to the right side and search for cheese pizza. Now, as you can see, margherita pizza's recipe will go to cheese pizza, but it will have few additional ingredients also. So first we'll copy the recipe, and it will ask you to copy the ingredients listed inside the margherita pizza. So now it will ask you to copy the ingredients listed inside the margherita pizza. I can select them or proceed to copy all of them. As I've copied all of them, we can see here the recipes has been auto applied. Now, if you want to add another ingredient, you'll have to go to edit recipe and then add them there. Or we can go to quick recipe, select the additional ingredients being cheddar cheese and allocate it to the dish directly from here. As you can see, there are so many names of cheese pizzas written below. Why? Because add-ons are applied onto variations. So a cheese pizza had 3 variations: large, medium and small, and all of the 3 variations had 4 add-ons of olives, capsicum, onions and cheese. That is why a long list like such will be populated. We'll select the pizza and add one quantity to it. Create recipe, and the recipe will be added. So it is this easy to manage recipes onto Petpooja software. Now in case where you've onboarded another outlet of yours onto Petpooja and you want to use these recipes from the home outlet to that outlet. For that, you'll have to come here on the export section and click on export recipe for branch upload. An Excel sheet like so will be generated, which can later be sent or uploaded by going to the different branch. This will ease down your process of setting up a new outlet when it comes to recipe or raw materials. But if you want to export the view or the active recipes of this particular outlet, then you can click here where only active recipes will be exported, or you can click on export all where active and inactive recipes both will be exported in Excel format. Such will be the format of that recipe. If you'd like to delete multiple recipes from the recipe list, you can click here, select those recipes and delete multiple recipes. One thing you have to keep in mind is that while creating a copy recipe, if even one ingredient is assigned to the dish, then the dish won't be visible in copy recipe. As you can see, I've deleted all the pizza recipes. Now if I go to copy recipe and search pizza, the pizzas will be visible. But let us assign a demo ingredient to prove my point. As you can see, I have assigned 7-Up to all of the pizza recipes. And the pizza recipes have been updated below. Now if I go to copy recipe and I select 7-Up, and on the right side if I type pizza, no recipe will be found, because for the system even one ingredient will be considered as a recipe. So first you'll have to come back onto the home screen and delete those recipes, and then assign recipes from copy ingredients. I understand it is a bit complicated, but we have given these options for easy customization of the entire recipe management. So this was all about recipe management in Petpooja. Thank you.